uncommon mission begins down one of the 10 largest rivers on Earth. Where Jean-Michel Cousteau and his team sail, conquerors and kings have passed. Yet the river itself remains master of the lands and lives it sweeps through. The destinies of 50 million people in Southeast Asia are linked inseparably to this life stream, provider of all things. In reverence, they call it Mekong, Mother of Waters. Time moves as the river moves, slowly, serenely. Life passes as if locked in an epic poem from another age, unending, unchanging. Now the Cousteau team seeks to witness and to film the remote world of the Mekong and its peoples. A vast realm sustained by a single blessing, the gift of water. Along the Mekong, an ancient ceremony of welcome. It is a mark of the ironies of history. Villagers in northern Laos, who remember bloody conflict with French and American soldiers, today celebrate the arrival of Cousteau explorers, mostly French and American. Following custom, a gift of cotton bracelets to bind strangers and villagers in friendship, to ensure the wearers of good luck on the shifting river ahead. In boats of traditional design, the Cousteau team will survey nearly 1,000 miles of the central Mekong, heading downstream through Laos and Thailand, while Calypso probes the lower river. It is a journey to another time for expedition leader Don Santee.
I was thinking to myself that this is going to be the start of a major expedition. We'd be living on this boat for 2.5, 3 months. We're basically isolated. We don't have the modern technology, radios, telephones with us to communicate.
Santee and Jean-Michel Cousteau hope to study a world still beyond human domination, still ruled by the rhythms of a river. Born in the Himalayas, the Mekong runs half its course as a mountain stream in China, then broadens to form the largest river in Southeast Asia. Cousteau teams will explore its lower reaches through nations bound in common fate with the forces and fluctuations of the great river.
That which is indispensable in this far land is supplied by the Mekong. For river people, it is the lifeline of existence, primary source of drinking water and food fish, irrigator of crops, cutter of wastes, bearer of new soil, wash basin, bathtub, passageway and playground. Life proceeds at the river's edge, where the sole career of millions is to work the river, to harvest from its passing the means of survival.
The first stop, the infamous Golden Triangle, where the borders of Laos, Thailand, and Myanmar, once called Burma, intersect at a junction of the Mekong and a tributary, remote epicenter of a global underworld. The atmosphere of intrigue draws not only racketeers, but tourists, creating in the encompassing solitude what seems to diver Mark Blessington an island of commotion.
At the border, this one checkpoint, this one crossing point, where three nations all mixed together in what is in fact the Golden Triangle, you have this enormous bustle of activity, markets, cultures being exchanged, goods being exchanged, sold, bought, crossing the border backwards and forwards. And I'm sure underneath all this, there's this inherent trade in opium.
Opium. With its derivative heroin, the scourge of millions of lives across the planet, originates mostly in the hill country along the Mekong. 2/3 of the world's supply comes from the Golden Triangle, entangling people of the river in a dark endeavor, enriching only traffickers. The pastoral quiet of the area belies its clandestine undercurrents, as team photographer Anne-Marie Cousteau documents. Warlords and contraband move invisibly among mute hills, fields, farms, and sea-bound river.
We enter the Mekong during the time of scarcity, the dry months when all await the rains that flood the fields, that produce the rice, that is the fuel of survival. Cliffs bear evidence of the enormity of the river's annual rise and fall. Some 40 feet above us, pictograms record the high water mark during the wet season, when monsoon rains swell the volume of the Mekong by 30 times. Nourishing with flood, starving with drought, the great pulse of the river governs existence. Yet, waxing or waning, the river remains the sole connector of distant lives and villages. A highway where commerce, travelers, and news flow as steadily as the river.
Detouring overland at a point far downriver, the Cousteau team will discover, near the end of its journey, that an insurmountable barrier interrupts navigation along the Mekong. After the portage, the team backtracks upstream to witness the maelstrom of cataracts known as Cone Falls. A 6-mile stretch of jagged rocks and tumultuous whitewater, the falls block all river traffic at the border of Laos and Cambodia. Impassable across the ages, Cone Falls has ever partitioned the Mekong, crushing the dreams of early explorers who envisioned the river as a water route to China. As the team sees, the falls stand as a fortress against conquest and change, ensuring the long isolation of the upper Mekong like a wall across time itself. The enduring wildness of the river is not confined to Cone Falls. Early in their journey, the Cousteau team encounters hazards intensified by the low water of the dry season.
Ahead, an approaching riverboat appears helpless in its struggle upstream against treacherous currents and exposed rocks.
Should we take her in
Okay.
Safe in our own transit downstream, we pull up along the bank to observe the vessel's plight. The scene is a vivid reminder that the people of the Mekong remain at the mercy of the river. A tow rope appears, the only implement of technology available. Any passing vessel imperiled by rapids prompts an age-old response. As we watch, the local village arrives en masse to counter the might of the river with muscle and sheer numbers. As payment, each villager will receive a liter of gasoline. The tug of war with the river can last for hours, with no guarantee of success. Sometimes humanity prevails, sometimes the river. We are told that 10 boats have been lost here already during this dry season. This day, the people are victorious. We sail on, as if through a lost world, along the great Mekong.
Along the Mekong, where material advancements are few, visitors improvise, make do, explore not only matters of science, but of the palate. Preparing meals only of local foods, the Cousteau team shares in the sensory elements of river life, the flavors and aromas treasured in a land where pleasures are often both simple and scarce. Yet the months in an unfamiliar world also evoke, on occasion, the need for things familiar.
As the river subsides in drought, an annual migration begins, family by family. Unable to work parched rice fields, villagers find a way to persevere. They transfer all of their belongings to riverbanks exposed by the shrinking Mekong. Erecting temporary camps, they adapt their ways of livelihood to the phases of the river. Predominantly farm families, incapable of farming until the rains come again, they reorganize themselves as fishing families for the length of the drought, gaining from fish protein to supplement their stores of rice, ever accepting and ingeniously exploiting whatever the river will give.
Still beyond intrusion by modern commercial fishing in its upper reaches, the river yields catches sufficient not only for daily sustenance, but modest profits, which will be used to buy in markets staples that cannot be grown in dry fields. For 1 month each year, fishermen turn to a special pursuit. Dream of catching the Mekong's greatest living prize, a mammoth creature called the plowbuck. A fish so large, the Cousteau team learns, that a single catch ensures the survival of a family for an entire year. To prevent overfishing, authorities permit only 3 boats to fish at a time and determine the order of departure by the luck of the draw.
จับเบอร์แล้วกันเริ่มมาลองดูที่หน้าเราจะได้เบอร์ดีค่ะของนายเบอร์อะไรวะ
For a Mekong fisherman, it is the beginning of a grand sweepstakes awarded by fate and the river. A blind quest begins with attempts to startle the fish toward the nets. Legend holds that plowbuck dwell in underwater caves of gold, yet no one knows where they come from or where they go in the river. For 3 days and nights, as the Cousteau team films, the men drift with the current, reset their nets, but catch nothing. Then suddenly, from a boat far upstream, shouts erupt. The river relents and bestows its fortune. A wave of excitement surges through the entire village. One of their own has wrested from the Mekong a living behemoth. The captive is not monster, but giant catfish, known to reach 600 pounds, but passive in its own realm, lacking not only predatory fierceness, but teeth. As the Cousteau team sees, the great fish is a source of enchantment to its captors, an embodiment of the river's magic. Merely to touch it is to be blessed with good luck.
Everyone, from the fishermen themselves to the people in town, in the village, along the banks, everyone is just running to see this fish come ashore. They want to touch it, they want to be near it, they want to benefit from its presence.
After eggs or sperm are saved for restocking, the meat will be shipped at great local profit to exclusive restaurants in Bangkok. The Mekong furnishes another gift for farmers hampered by the dry season. Some tirelessly carry from the banks silt washed here from as far away as the Himalayas. Blessington and Kilbride come upon families panning every day from dawn to dusk for a few flecks of gold to make ends meet.
You see these girls by the river dredging for these small amounts of gold. You see how young they are, and you think, what would these girls be doing if they were in our own culture? In my own lifetime, at that age, I'd have been gallivanting aimlessly around. It would be interesting to see what these girls would think of if they were shown what people of an equivalent age in other cultures were doing, whether they'd still be happy at what they're doing there.
Traveling buyers trade cash for gold, but the return is meager. On a good day, Santee is told, an entire family may find less than $2 worth of gold. A buyer sets before him a few pieces. It is all the local village has gathered so far this season. We
also encounter farmers cultivating the exposed riverbanks. the only arable land with access to abundant water. At its edges, the Mekong endlessly deposits an asset greater in value and consequence than gold. The season of rising waters leaves behind a new blanket of silt each year, replenishing the fertility of the riverbanks. Carrying water from the Mekong by hand, villagers exploit the rich soil to nurture gardens that prevent dry season hunger. Thus, life endures until the rains again swell the river over the banks, flood the rice fields, and ease the burdens of life along the great river.
For travelers and villagers along the remote Mekong, day is still defined by angles of light, not timepieces. Life stirs at daybreak, proceeds unhurried at the pace of the sun's passage, fades at nightfall. For Mark Blessington, the river by morning offers personal comforts. For villagers, it represents the first and most vital chore of each day. From early childhood, the young serve as water bearers, deftly managing loads heavy even for adults. Where temples rise along the riverbanks, a timeless ritual of the spirit marks each dawn as well. For the majority of people in Laos and Thailand, Buddhism permeates everyday living. In traditional saffron robes, young village men serve a period of duty as monks, marking their transition into adulthood, earning religious merit for their parents. In village or town, they assemble each morning to receive rice as alms from the faithful.
As the monks walk outside at 5 o'clock to collect their alms, it's just amazing the power of this religion. The monks are just totally reliant on the village people to supply them with their food every single day of the year. 5 o'clock is very early for me, but all the monks are out there, all the villagers are out there every single day.
In homes set on stilts to endure the worst floods, villagers pass the days of drought minding to tasks and pleasures put off during the season of intense farming. Yet beneath the apparent stillness, the village is endlessly preparing and persisting. Each morning, in a culture that exalts the family and children, learning is an imperative in even the poorest village.
So me, Konangkit. Konangkit?
Angkit.
Oh, okay.
Friend.
Friend.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Rakonda.
Yes.
Each village we enter is a self-sustaining world of daily tasks. Dried ham is accumulated for storage or sale in distant markets. In time-honored fashion, rice from the growing season is ground by women into flour for the rice cakes that serve as a staple of the Mekong diet. Animals are tended as elements of survival. Pigs as the principal source of meat. Elephants in remote areas as beasts of burden, carrying in riverbound trains essential goods from the interior: firewood, rice, cotton.
The dry season is also a time of building and repairing. The tools are little changed by time, and the materials of construction for houses, boats, or baskets are derived from nearby forests. Where nothing is plentiful, nothing is wasted. The scrap metal turned to machete may one day be turned again to plow or kettle. Ancestral ways prevail, allotting work by gender. Women cook by day and perform countless other jobs by season. When drought halts field work, women spend days spinning cotton yarn and weaving on hand looms the fabric to clothe the village. For some, a lull in farm work affords time for artistry, a chance to craft silver from the mountains into a saleable item for marketplaces up or downriver.
And for the young, the dry months permit the luxury of play. We watch in amazement a game of kick volleyball. The ball, woven in the village from bamboo, can be struck only with the feet or head. It is an exhibition of youthful resourcefulness and pure agility. Some days, the endeavors that support and enrich life are interrupted by death.
I'm used to funerals when there's a lot of black. Here are all these people in great costume with so much color, and yet the ceremony is nearly identical to what we have in our own world, except we're just used to wearing what is nearly our drabbest clothes, our darkest clothes. Here for them, the equivalent is a much more multicolored affair.
So life turns in cycles like the seasons of the river. A grandmother passes into memory. In the same place and same way she once paid respects to her own grandmother, wearing bright clothes long ago along the Mekong.
Most mornings along the river, what water, soil, and ingenuity have produced in excess of village needs is borne to a marketplace, usually by women. From hamlet to city, clearing to urban quarter, markets are the vital points of convergence for commerce and common needs. Here, day after day, by silent nod or hard bargain, people engage in the fundamental transactions of subsistence. For Mekong peoples, the market is not only grocery, but department store, hardware, pharmacy, promenade, and sidewalk cafe. And part zoo and aquarium, where some food is kept alive for freshness in the absence of refrigeration. Provisioning the Cousteau vessels week by week, expedition leader Santee and chef Frédéric Poguet master the subtleties of negotiating with a people gentle by nature but toughened by need. Wandering through a small village market, Blessington partakes in the spirit of the marketplace and in its sensory delights.
There's so many smells, there's so many aromas from these thousands of kitchens going on. You just want to eat everything, you want to taste everything. It's just such an excitement. I laugh at my excitement over this soup, and around me here's these people laughing at this stranger tasting such a mundane little dish.
From a landing often submerged during the flood season, Cousteau and Santee climb to a hallowed landmark in the ancient Lao capital of Luang Prabang.
Looming above the inconstancy of the river and the commonplace of daily life, Buddhist temples harbor the hope of relief and enlightenment for the devout. In an unpredictable world, Mekong peoples cling to perceived sources of power over their lives, over the river. Some even mix Buddhism spread here over the centuries from India with even older beliefs in spirits that dwell in nature. Yet, the greatest homage is paid Buddhism, from home and boat shrines to artistic temples, where golden images foretoken a richer existence beyond what the Buddha pronounced, this realm of suffering.
Perhaps the most striking symbol of the faith is yet to come, a sacred site long guarded by the Mekong itself. Where the Cousteau team sails, villagers in small boats fled invading armies 400 years ago, carrying with them a cargo beyond price. Searching for a place to safeguard their treasure, they found a cave set in a limestone escarpment, a hideaway reachable only by river. Here they hid from marauders their most precious possessions, statues of Buddha.
Amid the shadows, I look upon a sanctum sanctorum, an array of graceful figures that proffer a meaning and promise to ordinary life. Hands in the calling for rain posture echo the daily concerns of Mekong peoples as well. Over time, believers added new statues to their secret temple. Today, more than 7,000 line the cave, affirming the continuity of a culture buffeted by the whims of nature, looking upon the waters of the Mekong like serene sentinels, projecting upon all who pass the immutable sense of hope along the great river.
Under an artificial rain, celebrants in a river town anticipate the approaching wet season and try to hasten its arrival by example and enthusiasm. It is the supreme annual event called Songkran, the raucous prelude to the rebirth of the rains. And it takes the form of a New Year's celebration of water itself, both giver of life and source of joy. With the monsoons only days away, people splash precious water with abandon in a vast revelry throughout Mekong lands, blessing their victims with good wishes for the year ahead. The rejoicing is universal. No one escapes the deluge of happiness.
The festival is a time of sacrament as well. In solemn rites from city to countryside, river folk gain grace by bathing monks in the substance considered most sacred, water.
The carnival atmosphere and the ritual evocation of the rains transcend the boundaries of culture and politics up and down the Mekong. Taking inspiration from the revered ploughbuck, which passes from country to country as it migrates the river, people from different Mekong nations gather for a series of boat races that crown the celebrations.
Though this site is along the bank of the Mekong in Thailand, spectators and competitors also arrive by family boat, water taxi, or racing craft from Laos and Myanmar, sometimes from as far away as China and Vietnam. Through a water sport contested on the river that serves as a commons, neighbors are linked in peace who have endured past wars against outsiders and amongst themselves, from the days of Mongol hordes to the days of modern armies.
As the Cousteau team observes, it is the social event of the year, a place to see and be seen, to note the newest fashions and dances, and the oldest. Away from the pageantry, racers prepare for a moment anticipated the entire year. Officials finalize the schedules, working under 100-degree heat and the pressures of intense rivalries, setting up races and prizes, matching teams by boat size and crew gender.
Here are these people from 3 nations. Their normal nature, this hard-working people who are so concentrated on their work, suddenly just releases into this explosion of action and activity, and all centered on one race. With so much going on, so many people, so many different things together, it's very difficult to be able to concentrate on any one thing.
finally, the long-awaited signal.
เตรียมตัว
For a people who toil through the seasons just to get by, the rejuvenating powers of spectacle and friendly convergence surpass in importance even the outcome of the hard-fought races. The array of prizes ensures honor and recognition to each country, if not the overall championship, which this year is taken by a boat from Laos.
Once each year along the length of the Mekong, villagers honor the water spirit believed by the ancients to protect all who journey on the river. They carry to the banks small homemade rafts, each lit with candles and decked with offerings of incense or flowers. Custom directs villagers of all nations to relaunch the tiny craft again and again as they meet obstacles downriver. With each push seaward, people connected only by the river unite in a peaceful tribute to the flowing force that ever rekindles the flame of life along the great river. In May each year, following countless invocations after months of waiting, propelled from the Indian Ocean by monsoon winds, the rains come at last. For a people bound in complex destiny with the vast sweep of the water cycle, hope reawakens, renewal begins. They know that the water drenching them will enrich the months ahead, will nurture the fish and deposit new gold, will swell the river and flow into the fields, will infuse with robust life the billions of rice seeds that feed the millions of people, will sustain existence as it has through the millennia. So water begets life, and life passes along the great Mekong.